Louise Michaud is an ordained spiritualist minister, medium, energy healer, teacher, author, and spiritual counselor. Louise took her training and learned to enhance her natural psychic mediumship abilities at the Fellowships of the Spirit in Lilydale, New York. She has attended workshops with world-renowned psychic Sylvia Brown, medium Colette Baron-Reed, Doreen Virtue, Lisa Williams, and Neil Donald Walsh, just to name a few. Louise was a guest on the television program The Paranormal Show, was interviewed on Hay House Radio, and has done several speaking engagements on how spirit communicates. She has her own private reading practice and teaches mediumship classes. Louise will bring you a healing and empowering message with compassion and understanding. She is here to discuss her book entitled A Daughter's Journey, A Spirit from Heaven. Please welcome Louise.
Well, welcome everyone, and I would like to thank Spiritual Niagara for inviting me tonight and giving me the opportunity to speak about my book. It's always a pleasure. Now, the question is, what inspired me? Well, my daughter inspired me. She passed away 7 years ago, and as soon as her spirit left her body, she started coming to my husband and I right away. But what's significant about the book is 2 months later, I was sitting at the computer, and all of a sudden she was right there. And I heard, "Mom, you have to write my story and share it with the world." And I thought, oh my God, I've never written a book in my life. But I thought, if I say yes and not do it, I would feel bad. So I thought, okay, I will do it, but you're going to have to help me to write it. So every time I went on the computer and started writing, I would call on her and the Archangel Gabriel, who's the angel of communication, and I would ask them to help me to write the words so they would flow properly, so people would understand. And it took 1.5 years to write, because some days I would write one paragraph and start bawling my eyes out, and other times I could write 2-3 pages. So anyhow, so this is where my inspiration comes from, my beautiful daughter Chantal. So what the story is about is her life, obviously. She was born premature, 2 months, weighing in at 3 pounds 3 ounces. My brother-in-law could hold her on his hand. That's how little she was. Well, he didn't do it then because she was in an incubator. But anyway, and because she was such a fighter and had such a will and determination, within 6 weeks we were able to bring her home, and she weighed 5 pounds 4 ounces. Now the nurses said that she would be behind a couple of months because of her prematurity, but it didn't happen. She started walking at 1 year old, and by 3 she had a full vocabulary. She was a very intelligent little girl. At the age of 4 she was diagnosed with a neuroblastoma, which is cancer on the spine. And so she had to undergo chemotherapy for 1.5 years, which was administered every 21 days, and 30 days straight of radiation. After almost 2 years, with all the scans that were retaken, she was clear of everything. So she was able to live a normal life again and go back to school and play with her friends. At the age of 11, she started having cold after cold and difficulty breathing, and we thought, what's going on? So we took her to the doctor, and they said that they discovered that one of the drugs in the what they administered in the chemotherapy damaged the lower part of her heart, and so the mitral valve remained slightly open, and that's what caused the fluid to go into her lungs, and that's why she kept getting these colds. So they put her on medication, and that was at 11, and she was fine until actually the age of 25. So throughout that time, she graduated 4 years university and 1 extra year that she specialized in her field, and she got a job in London working for the people with brain injury, and she just loved it. At 25, she loved to travel. She went to Jamaica with some friends, and the day they were coming home, that morning she had a stroke. So they had to, the whole nightmare is in the book, but I won't talk about that. But It took almost 2 days to get her home because of the insurance companies. So don't ever get sick in Jamaica because the care there is unbelievable. There is no care. But anyhow, they airlifted her home, and she had a wonderful friend that stayed with her right till the very end. So anyhow, she made it back to London, and they sent her to rehab, and she was there for 3 weeks, and I was doing healings on her morning and night, and with her, again, her determination, she wanted to go back to work. She was back at work within 6 weeks and out of the hospital in 3. That's how powerful she was. And I have to say that her strength and determination, even when she was going through chemo, she never, ever, I could see the other little kids, you know, they didn't want to take their medicine because it was awful tasting. She never complained, and she gave me the strength to be able to cope with all of this. And so that she was an inspiration when she was alive, and she still inspires from the other side. So after the stroke, the lower part of her mitral valve remained even open even more, and so there was more fluid building up. So she was having difficulty breathing once again. So at the age of 29, so this went on for 4 years, and it got worse in their 29th year. So finally they decided to replace the valve, but unfortunately they put a new valve in the part where the heart was damaged, so it wasn't performing 100%. So her quality of life was even worse. So anyway, she was in there, major surgery, she had tubes everywhere for 3 months. And they decided to put her on the heart transplant list because she needed a new heart. And she was put on the list on Friday afternoon. She was so excited. On Sunday afternoon, they called her and said they had a heart for her. But she only had it for a week. And there was a lot of complications. So that was her journey, and we both experienced it. And before I read my excerpt, I want to say that we've all lost loved ones. When you lose a child, every loss is different. And there's no time for grieving. Everyone grieves differently. But I have to tell you that no matter what, please believe that they are always there for you. They watch over you, they guide you, they send you so many messages, but when we grieve, sometimes we miss the messages. So I'm sure a lot of you know that they come through with feathers, with coins, through smells, electronically, the doorbell ringing. She rang our doorbell. My sister called me for 2 years on the phone from the other side. I knew it was her. I said smell, they come through moving objects, and now her picture was turned. We knew that it was her, you know, so things like that. Yes, okay, 2 more minutes. So anyway, I just want to show you, on my husband's cell phone, we took a picture of it, and it disappeared after he took the picture on his phone. He had that on for 1.5 years. It's a message from my daughter's cell phone 2 days after she passed on his cell phone. Yeah. So anyway, I've got time for my excerpt, right? Okay, so just believe that they're there. Talk to them, ask them when you need help, and they'll be there for you. So this is when she had her stroke in Jamaica, okay? Finally, Sunday morning, the phone rang. It was Jeremy. I have wonderful news. The hospital where I work will admit Chantal. The insurance company will finally send a medical plane to get us out of the country. There will be an attending nurse and doctor on the plane. I have also received permission to accompany Chantal. Thank God for that, man. He was a living angel, trust me. Oh God, oh thank God, I didn't want her to be alone with strangers. Chantal is stable and very excited to be going home, but unfortunately it won't be until later tonight. The medical plane had to land in London, Ontario. From there, Chantal would be taken by ambulance to the hospital near Port Elgin, less than 2 hours away. Jeremy figured they would probably be arriving around 10:30 that night. He told us to be waiting in the parking lot around that time. Alain, that's my husband, and I began to cry tears of gratitude and joy. We were so grateful and relieved that she was coming home at last. Thank you so much, Jeremy. You are a living angel. I don't know what you look like, but when I see you, I will know and give you the biggest hug and kiss. I would do anything for Chantal. Alain and I then gave thanks to God. We knew God provided the help and the right people to make this miracle possible. Finally, our beautiful daughter was coming home to her family, where she belonged. I called John, that was my ex-husband, her dad, and Thomas, my son, and told them we were heading to Port Elgin to meet the ambulance. Thomas told us to keep him informed, and John told us he would meet us at the hospital. The hospital near Port Elgin was 3.5 hours away, but we did not care. We would have driven anywhere to be with her. Later that day it began to snow. Because of the weather and the distance, we left right after supper, ensuring that we would have time to get there before the ambulance arrived. The snow was coming down heavily. It was quiet in the car. I was very nervous and felt the same for Alain. I did not speak lest it distract him from the snow-covered roads. We drove through small towns and long stretches of country roads where the homes were far apart. The snow was relentless. There were times when we thought we were lost, as the road signs were covered in snow. Al had to stop to clean the street sign and see where we were. It was a nightmare and I couldn't wake up. All I could say was, "Dear God, help us get through this. If only I could see the sign for Port Elgin, I would be so grateful." Then there it was at the next corner, the most beautiful big green sign, Port Elgin, 3 kilometers. I sighed with relief and thanked God. Now Alain and I finally spoke. We made it to the hospital parking lot precisely at 10 o'clock and waited for the ambulance to appear. We were so glad to have arrived safe and sound, anxious to hear and hold our beautiful daughter. We waited in the cold night for her arrival. The minutes passed. It was close to 11 and the ambulance had not yet appeared. Then Alain's cell phone rang. It was Jeremy. "Hi, Louise. We have just arrived in London. It's snowing pretty heavy over here. There's no way Chantal is able to make the journey by ambulance. I'm trying to convince the hospital to admit her." While Jeremy and I were on the phone, he was also communicating with the hospital. I waited as he spoke to them. Again, my heart was racing. I could hear shouting back and forth as Jeremy was trying to convince the hospital the importance of allowing Chantal to be admitted there. I prayed the hospital would keep her. After waiting several minutes with great anticipation, I heard, "Louise, the hospital has agreed to admit Chantal." Thank God, what a relief. Jeremy and I can't thank you enough for helping Chantal. I can't wait to meet you tomorrow. You are welcome. I'm just so relieved Chantal is home. We breathed another sigh of relief, for tonight our daughter was safe. Thank you.